Claustrophobia by LeBron. This story may be disturbing to those who have a fear of enclosed spaces or have a sense of dread about being trapped within their confines with no way of getting out. It is recommended that you avoid this story if you are claustrophobic. But to all others, please enjoy. There once was a man who died at the young age of 35. He was placed in a coffin with one hand over the other across his stomach. He was taken to the graveyard and buried, forever entombed in darkness below the ground in a wooden coffin. But he miraculously awakened. A miracle indeed, but not a miracle anyone wants to experience firsthand. Because he had not known of the burial, he had no idea where he was, and all he could see was absolute darkness. The darkness led him to the assumption that he had gone blind. He tried to feel his way, but no matter where he stretched his arms, there was no room to fully extend them. Whatever was enclosed around him felt solid, and it was no different with the barrier above him, which was a mere 2 inches from his face. He brought up his hands and pushed the top of the tiny area, but it felt heavy and would not budge. Not only was there absolute darkness, but there was no sound other than that of his own breathing, which seemed to amplify within the confines. It occurred to him that the space in which he was trapped fit him perfectly. Then he realized he had been buried alive. His breathing became heavier as he panicked, and his own body heat caused the confines to grow warm, causing him to sweat. He tried to scream, but the enclosure was so deep within the ground that all he did was hurt his own ears, so he grew quiet, other than his heavy breathing. Would he be rescued? He thought about that question, but had no hope, because everyone presumed him to be dead. He wedged his hands above him the best he could and began clawing at the wooden lid above him, pine splinters digging deep underneath his freshly manicured nails. The wood was thick, though, and unforgiving, so he gave up, feeling the pain of his bloody fingers. He could feel the sweat dripping from his brow as he lay in the darkness, with no hope of ever standing on his feet or even raising up ever again. What are the chances of being buried alive? 1 in a billion? He pondered. Who makes a deathly mistake like this? Could they not tell I was breathing? Did they not check for a heartbeat? He noticed that it was getting harder for him to breathe. Much harder. It was as if he had to force his lungs to inhale, collecting the last few remaining breaths of oxygen within the confines of the grave. And when he exhaled, it was as if he had heavy bricks laying on his chest. He knew the end would come shortly, and he would be just as dead as those in the other coffins that were no doubt around him. He wished he could have lost his mind before now. He wanted to go stark raving mad before this point so as to be incoherent of the time he actually drew his last breath. But he was very aware. He raised his face 2 inches above him where it met the wooden lid of the coffin. He thought about a last hope of chewing his way through it, knowing that such a feat was impossible, and that madness was beginning to overtake him. The forced breathing had gotten so unbearable that he only inhaled once every 30 seconds or so, and he felt faint from the lack of air. Even the absolute darkness and the total silence of the grave couldn't keep him from seeing or hearing the revelation of his imminent death.
God, I forgive whosoever mistakenly put me here,
he said weakly before succumbing to asphyxiation.
Please have mercy on me.
For years, he has laid in the grave with his hands wedged above him, a grotesque look of terror on his decaying face. No one even knows of the deathly mistake 6 feet under the old tombstone. It was the kind of mistake that no one would ever know about without opening the grave and seeing him firsthand. But no one exhumes a body without having a reason to. No, not a soul knew of the terrible mistake. No one except his wife and her gentleman caller, and they knew that a mistake it wasn't.